Looking to showcase your product or service? There's no better place than the AFCA convention, which will take place January 8th through the 10th in 2023 in Charlotte, North Carolina. The AFCA convention is an opportunity to exhibit in front of over 7,000 coaches and staff members. Head on over to convention.afca.com for more information. See you in Charlotte.
This week on Inside the Headset, we are featuring the College of San Mateo's offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach, Coach Mike Dovenberg. Coach Dovenberg was part of the inaugural AFCA 35 under 35. Coach Dovenberg discusses his win against cancer, the unique experience and challenges of coaching players in junior college football, and where he gained a lot of his insight and guidance as a young coach in the profession. Now, let's get Inside the Headset with Coach Dovenberg.
Coach, what's going on? How are you?
Hey, man, I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome, man. Always a pleasure to talk with you and see you. I know you're always a willing helper at the AFCA convention, and had you on the podcast about 3 years ago. And I know a lot's changed since we spoke. I mean, at that point in time, you were going through some major landmark or situation in your life, and definitely want to kind of start the podcast off talking about it. You know, you're celebrating 3 years of cancer free this past February. Can you share a little bit about everything about that situation? And like I said, I know you were on a podcast 3 years ago talking about it, but just when the diagnosis kind of showed up, what you were dealing with, and how overcoming has affected your overall outlook on coaching and life. All in between. That's a big question, I know.
Yeah, no, it's good. I've been practicing it for a bit now. I get it. But yeah, it was June of 2018 when I got diagnosed. I had been feeling sick, and we went to the doctor and did the blood work, and it was leukemia. Did a whole 8-month chemo stint, and then did a bone marrow transplant, which my sister donated. So essentially, I got all of her stem cells, and like that process is tough, but it's curative, right? So when we talked last, I think I was like 2 or 3 months out of that transplant process. And just since then, just been getting stronger and healthier and better ever since. And it's been really good. And kind of to your point of how it changed outlook on what's important, it's amazing. Like, I think I'm a much better husband, better football coach. Yeah. I'll be a better father one day because we've been through this. And you figure out like the important stuff when you're wondering about your own mortality and all that. It's really the people that you surround yourself with. And I'm really lucky, both in my personal life and here at CSM, to have a really great team of human beings as well as good football coaches that helped me get through all of it. And here we are. We're 3 years later and just new perspective.
Yeah, no doubt, man. It's interesting in the profession that we're in. Coaching at the collegiate level, high school level, professional level. For anybody that's listening, that might be a professional level coach. It's so competitive. It's such a rat race. Always, trying to work your way up and having your personal goals and stuff. And sometimes it's hard to be the great husband or great father, even the great coach, not necessarily from an X and O standpoint, but just being that guy some of those young people can lean on. And one thing I probably never talked about on this podcast is sometimes probably hard to listen to your body. You're a lot of times you're not rested. A lot of times you're sick, but you still expected to kind of be around and be available and all that kind of stuff. So as far as that aspect, especially been something I probably never talked about in 300 episodes of this podcast. How important is it? That aspect to kind of listen to your body and say, hey, hold up, something's not right. I need to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I a lot of guys, I'm sure in the profession, like you kind of hit on the head, right? Like, oh, you're sick, but you're going to go to work.
Yeah.
Like when I was coming back, so typically with a transplant, that 2019 season, I was released back to work several months earlier than most people are on fairly strict hours. Like it was, I think, a 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. like window that I was allowed to be like at work, quote unquote. And going back to having great people. I mean, Coach Tulloch, our head coach, who's like a mentor, brother, like he's family, would walk in the door about 6:58 every day and like, go home.
Get out of here.
And right. And that was important. Like I was we'll continue to try to prove that I'm back and healthy and all that stuff. But it's bigger than that. And one of the things we learned through the pandemic is there's a lot of stuff you can do at home after you've seen your wife, your kids, whoever, after you've had dinner with the family. Like the work will still be there and all that, but that time you don't really get back. So perspective's definitely changed a little bit. And like, hey, when you work, like I'm a morning guy, so I'll work between 5 and 8 in the morning uninterrupted, and then be more present, like at dinner time and stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome, man. I appreciate you sharing that perspective, and great to hear. Although I've known for a few years, but anybody that's been listening to a podcast this long, I'm sure they're excited to kind of hear that everything's all good and you guys are still at it. Now let's fast forward all the way to a little bit more in the present. You guys recently went down to 49ers, San Francisco 49ers OTAs, as a staff. What were a couple of things that you took out of that experience that can help you be a better coach or reaffirm some things?
Yeah, well, Coach Tulloch, again, going back to our staff, but he's on our kids all the time. Like, you have to constantly be sharp, right? And finding a way to get better. That's no different for us as a staff, right? And so that specific trip, our program built relationships with a lot of the pro and 4-year programs in the area. And it was fantastic for a couple things. Being extraordinarily concise in coaching points is important at every level. It's no different, I think, even at the professional level where, like, you're on the move and you don't have time to give a dissertation on why that route needs to hit 12 yards and break in. 12 yards, hammer plant, get out. Stuff like that, I think, was really reaffirming and important. And then just little logistical things at practice. The guys practice like professionals. They spend 20 minutes before stretch getting their bodies ready. The transition between drills, same things we emphasize here, is emphasized when guys are getting paid.
Yeah.
And, that it reaffirms, I think we're doing a lot of things right. And you just find a little ways to do what we do better. Little things, right? Little coaching points. It's nothing earth shattering. It's those details.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, sometimes when you can surround yourself with, phenomenal athletes, professional level athletes. I mean, these guys are doing something a very, very small percentage of most collegiate high school athletes can do. Well, anything blow your mind from a talent standpoint from some of those guys, some of the throws, the cues we're making, or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, there obviously, we've got a very talented group of players here, and you can see sometimes things are similar, and there's other things like you watch Brandon Ayuk come out of a dig is a little bit different than a 19-year-old kid. Yeah. There's definitely some athleticism things, and what's great, I think, is that guy's coached a little bit differently. Not the standard's different, but like he's able to take a dig to 17 yards, where the other guys are taking it to 14. So you could tell the route, for example, was a little bit different with the faster guys, but the quarterback's feet weren't different. So yeah, there's some freak athletes, but I'm really intrigued in coaching those guys. And sometimes we get in the way as coaches, right? And you've got a dude that can go out and make the play. Like, let's find a way to help him do what he does really, really good.
Yeah.
And they do a good job of that, I think, in San Francisco.
No doubt, man. No doubt. Well, talking about talented athletes, as you mentioned, you guys do a great job of recruiting and getting guys in there. You've had 30 guys graduate and transfer to 4-year schools in 2021, which is fantastic. I mean, ultimately, that's actually one of the few areas I hadn't had the opportunity. I did high school, all the different levels of NCAA 4-year programs, but I've never had the 2-year experience, and I've always been intrigued with it because it is such a quick turnaround, short time period with guys. You're recruiting and helping the guys get recruited, and so it's multiple aspects that kind of go into that. How have you used your coaching network over the years and to help these guys make sure they have homes and help them be recruited?
Yeah, Mara, we're going to be at 45.
Oh, wow.
I'm here at the end of June. We were 30 mid-year guys. So it is definitely something that it's not a me thing. I mean, this program here has done such a good job of moving guys on for so long now. I think we're getting better, right? Like, my job is to try to add value to the reputation of CSM. But it's great because the guys that have left here, and we say all the time, like, if you leave here, your job is to come back with a bachelor's degree and to play and work so hard and play so well that they come back and get 2 more guys next year, right? So it's much more, I think, a testament to our players and Coach Tulloch and Coach Owens and the guys that have been here for 20 plus years, as far as their word has become very meaningful. As far as, hey, this guy can do it for you. He's been through our program. If you've been through our program, you can make it at any level, which I firmly believe. And then, we all have our individual connections that have helped, sure. But there's nothing like that CSM stamp, man. We tell our guys all the time that's the biggest stage in America. If you want to play junior college football, like, you'll get seen here, and it's a product because of the players that have been here before us, more so than, I know somebody, and obviously a phone call and a text directly is more meaningful than recruiting at Oregon.edu.
Right.
But the reason those guys pick up the phone calls and all that is because the guys that have gone up there before have done well. And that's a testament to the program much more so than me or any individual coach besides probably Coach Steve.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And that's such a, humbling because it happened so quickly. Now, just real quick, just kind of a side question off that, being an offensive coordinator and, realizing that you don't have a very long time with these guys, 3 years tops. You guys do redshirt, is that correct? You redshirt?
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Okay. So, 3 years tops, but, I'm assuming pretty much these guys, if they can come in and play, you try to get them on the field as fast as possible. So, majority of guys 2 years. How does that manipulate your coaching philosophy? I could see it going 2 ways, basically. I could see it going, man, hey, I get a new guy and we got to adapt to what this guy can do, or, hey, these guys are in here so quick, we got it. This is what we do. You come in, you learn it, you play it, and then we get you out of here. So kind of how do you approach it?
Yeah, well, I think it's definitely a mix of those two things, right? Yeah. I think, we've got this much offense, right? We've got the ability to do a whole bunch of different things. Each year we're going to do probably 70% of what the offense can do.
Oh, okay.
Now, like, we got a really good running quarterback. Well, that 70% is going to include the read stuff and the QB carrying the ball a whole bunch. And if we, for example, next year the guy is more of a thrower, like our kid last year. He's at Utah now, but we didn't run read with him much. Like, we spent a lot more time in the play action world than the RPO game.
Yeah.
So you've got to have enough offense to where you're not trying to, hey, all right, we're going to be wing T this year. Like, everybody buckle up, let's go.
Right.
But you have to be simple enough and disciplined enough as a staff, as a play caller, that, like, you can't have it all. You're not going to have a 22-year-old in there helping you out being a 5-year starter or a 5-year player.
Yeah.
So it's a balance, but we try to do what our players do best. And as fast as they learn, as much as they can do, we'll do more fun stuff.
Yeah. Well, I know I definitely don't want to compare it to this because this is this part was entertainment. But the Netflix series came out on the college's Last Chance U, right? And it kind of gave everybody this probably somewhat accurate view of what goes on there, but at the same time, it was still entertainment, right? They're patching stuff together. I don't know if you're familiar with the Last Chance U deal, but bottom line is you got to look into a little bit of how fast these guys come in, they're out. Guys from all different types of backgrounds, they come in. Everybody has this aspiration, basically, of going to make it to the next level. No different than 4-year college or high school, things like that. So basically, you saw this really fast turnaround of guys trying to make it to the next level. Now, when you have all these guys that are aching to be on the field, how do you manage that? How do you manage getting guys balls, get them the exposure that they need, but also keeping everything in perspective that your job is to win games and develop young people? Yeah,
I think first off, I think the Last Chance U is not, at least with our program, is not representative of the experience. Just from a demeanor and coaching standpoint,
absolutely.
I think we do things a little bit differently here than you saw on the TV show.
Yeah.
But there is certainly guys are in and oftentimes from tough backgrounds and life's hard. So I think it's twofold. Is one, we have to build a relationship with every player, right? You got to know him beyond he's jersey number 5 and he runs a great deep ball, right? You got to know the human being and build a relationship with the person. So you have that trust that, hey, I've got your best interest, the player, not the helmet, best interest in mind. And then two, like, my job as a play caller, our job as coaches is to maximize every player's contribution, right? And so if you've got one guy and that guy at play number 90 is not as good as that guy, and you got to get involved. You got to maximize that guy. At play 90, if he's not as good as the next guy would be at play 35, well, you got to make sure you're putting the best 11 on the field in every given situation. Now our incoming recruiting is a huge part of that, right? We got to bring in the right people that understand, like, hey, maybe I'm taking time to develop, or hey, he's the right person because he's going to be on the field right away. We don't carry 230 guys like maybe you saw in the TV shows, and it's chaos. Yeah. We want to bring in good people that are going to work really hard and trust the process, and even, last year our backup quarterback was a one and done to Georgia Southern, and he wasn't the starter, but he was here for 6 months and out. Oh, wow. So having that kind of track record, I think, of like, if you do what you're supposed to do, that CSM stamp, the opportunity to get on the field when you do and make your opportunities work for you, that happens. And it's happened over and over here. We just had an offensive lineman who started only a couple of games, get offered a scholarship in the Mountain West. And he just trusted that process and worked. So that helps a lot as far as alleviating some of the anxieties of, I got to play right away, I got to go now.
Yeah.
Like, the CSM way, it'll work for you. If you work it, it'll work for you.
That's awesome.
That's the message.
That's awesome to hear. And for full clarity, I'm 100%
I'm with you.
That Netflix, that was not an accurate depiction. I was more just talking about all the different types of athletes that you could potentially get walking through there. But you further explain it, and I think for anybody that's seen that and is not familiar with the JC ball, that's not what you see. But there definitely is this process of guys wanting to come in and be recruited, and you guys do a tremendous job with that. Now, before I kind of start getting ready to let you go here, you've done a fantastic job with always pouring back and giving back into the community. And I say this, sorry to kind of put it out there, man, but if I ever need anything, man, and I send an email out to a group of guys, you're the first to respond, always willing to help out, and I'm always appreciative of that, just so you know that. As far as your personal development, what are some of the places that you've kind of gone to develop as an offensive coach, a quarterback coach, a play caller? Where are some of the places that you like to hone in and learn ball?
Yeah. Well, obviously when I first started, it was all AFCA related. When I was a young guy at Ellsworth College or at Kansas Wesleyan and all those places, like, oh, the AFCA, and it was sit on every buzz session and everything I could to possibly learn and then get to know people. And as we've gone through the networks that are built here and through those avenues with the 30 under 30 and all that stuff, a lot of what we do offensively is, NFL-ish. So we'll spend some time with the 49ers and the Rams out here because it's close.
Yeah.
And then Coach Arroyo at UNLV was the play caller at Oregon. And he's been very, very helpful for us. We've spent some time with those guys as far as how they build things out and some language stuff and, play call sequencing. That's been really, really helpful as well. And it's great, that AFCA, and as you get to know people and coaches, like, I think there's a lot of really good people that give back to the game. And I'm just trying to get around as many good people and learn as much as I can. We're still growing here too.
That's right, man. Well, like I said, I do appreciate you always been willing to help out, and that's the beauty of the business. I mean, you're helping others learn while you're also always trying to learn and grow. It's just the only time you're ever in a bad position is when you stop trying to learn, regardless of kind of where you are, man. So that's awesome. Now, you mentioned 30 under 30. You were part of that inaugural class in 2016, 17, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And so it did used to be the Future Coaches Academy. That's kind of what it was initially, but it rebranded to 30 under 30. And I think that was kind of the beginning of that program really starting to grow and blossom into what it is today. What did that experience mean to your career, and how has it helped, point you a little bit or get you a little bit more focused on trying to get to your goals, your personal goals?
Oh, it was awesome. I think we got to hear, from some guys that are legends of the game, like Bill Curry, David Shaw, all kinds of really good human beings. And like, I'll never forget, like Bill Curry, he was probably in his early 70s at that time, like standing with, like, he looks you in the eyes, like, that kid comes into your office. He's 6'5", 330. That's a scared child. And don't you forget he's somebody's son.
Yeah.
Like, you take care of that child. It's that kind of like, man, this is bigger than like, let's go win a game.
Right.
Right. So that was huge. And then, I think being a young guy trying to make it, quote unquote, like obviously having that, that network, that kind of seal of approval from people who are very good at what they do with the AFCA and the 30 under 30 class. Like, I think that kind of helped me get in the door, maybe like up here, for example, just it was another, like, hey, he's working hard to try to be great at what he does.
Right.
And then we're still in touch. There's some guys from that class that, we'll see each other at the convention and whatnot. And it's cool. It's very, very cool.
Yeah, no doubt, man. I tell you what's cool from my end. Obviously, I wasn't at that point in time. I think when that class was, I might have still been in coaching, but I came the following year and then eventually kind of took over the program and all that with the 35 over 35. But really, just the first couple classes at this point in time, so many of them are, coordinators and head coaches and a lot. Now at this point in time, it's grown so much. A lot of the guys that are applying are already offensive coordinators at this point. But I mean, just to see the growth and it's kind of like recruiting. I compare it to recruiting for us. We're looking for the 30 best, and it's not just on how well your Q played that year. It's just a mix of things, man. So it's been great from my perspective to watch you grow, bounce back from 3 years ago and see you thriving and always willing to help us out here. But before I let you go, man, I want to give you an opportunity to share your social media with the listeners so they can follow you and keep up with your journey, man.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter. It's at Coach Dovey, Dovey. Don't use it a whole lot other than recruiting wise, but yeah, definitely kind of like Mario said, man, happy to help anybody that wants to talk some football, and I'll pick your brain for ideas too. So, love staying connected with coaches trying to get better.
Cool, man. Well, we'll definitely link it. And I know how it is when you focus on a recruit, but shoot him a DM. Coach Dovey's awesome, man. He's, like I said, he's done a tremendous job for us here at the AFCA. But thanks as always, man. Wishing you the best of luck going into the season, and I look forward to seeing you in Charlotte. Okay.
Yeah, Mario. Appreciate you, man. Good seeing you.
All right, later, man.
All right, bye.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Inside the Headset. If you heard anything on this episode that you would like to learn more information about, head over to afcapodcast.com, where you can find every episode and all of the corresponding show notes. While you're there, take a second to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for the show, please let us know by sending an email to podcast@afca.com. Make sure to follow the podcast on Twitter at Inside the Headset and tag it when you share each episode. You can stay up to date with all things AFCA by following the @WeAreAFCA Twitter account. Every episode of Inside the Headset can also be found on your favorite audio streaming platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. If you are not currently a member of the AFCA, be sure to find us online at afca.com and apply to join over 10,000 NFL, college, and high school coaches from around the country who are striving to be the best they can be. With an AFCA membership, you gain invaluable access to the annual AFCA convention, the bi-monthly magazine, and the new and improved digital library, which contains thousands of videos and articles contributed by hundreds of current and former football coaches. You can also visit afcainsider.com to sign up for our free weekly email newsletter on the right-hand side of the screen. It comes out every Tuesday at lunch and is filled with great articles and stories written by many of the same coaches you hear on the podcast. It's geared to help you become a better coach tomorrow than you are today. Be sure to connect with me on Twitter at Coach Mario Price. And remember, the AFCA is not just an annual convention. It is an association that continually promotes education, guidance, and networking. But it is also so much more than that. The AFCA is about celebrating the past and educating the future. It is about developing great coaches who will produce great teams and even better people. So invest in your skill set and impact today by engaging with the AFCA.